Some call it Incredible India. Others call it the gateway to hell. Open up the news, and you're bombarded with rape cases, derailed trains, floating corpses in the Ganges, and the suffocating grip of the caste system. Some tourists visit once and swear they'll never set foot on that soil again, while others find themselves drawn back again and again, like they're under some kind of spell. Today, we're not talking about the glitz and glamour of Bollywood. We're not here to sugarcoat anything. We're going to peel back the skin of this country and look at the raw, unfiltered reality that shocks, baffles, and even horrifies the rest of the world. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear may be nothing like the ancient civilization you thought you knew. If there's one place on Earth where extreme luxury and extreme despair exist side by side, it's Mumbai. You've probably seen the famous photo. On one side stands Antilia, the jaw-dropping 27-story skyscraper owned by Asia's richest man, Mukesh Ambani, a building worth several $billion, housing just one family of 6, staffed by 600 servants. And within plain sight of that tower, no telescope needed, lies Dharavi, the largest slum in Asia. This isn't a movie set. This is India in 2024. Which brings us to the first shocking fact. India's wealth gap has reached a level that can only be described as obscene. The top 1% of Indians control over 40% of the nation's wealth. When the richest man's daughter gets married, and the wedding invitations alone cost tens of thousands of dollars, with Bollywood stars and the USN Secretary of State flying in to celebrate just a few miles away, tens of thousands of families of 5 are crammed into tin-roofed shacks, smaller than a parking space, fighting over a single bucket of water from a shared tap. The visual whiplash is enough to make you question whether fairness exists anywhere in this world. Speaking of fighting over water, we have to address the topic that makes so many foreign visitors recoil: sanitation. This brings us to the second fact: the never-ending battle between open defecation and the toilet revolution. Over the past decade, the Indian government has been on a frenzy of toilet construction, claiming coverage of over 90% of the country. But the reality on the ground doesn't always match the data. In many rural areas, even in homes that have toilets, men still prefer heading out to the fields because, in traditional belief, building a toilet inside the home is considered unclean. This isn't just a hygiene problem. It's a serious safety crisis. Did you know that many sexual assault cases targeting rural women happen while women venture out to relieve themselves at dawn or late at night? It sounds absurd, but it's a tragedy unfolding in the 21st century. And speaking of women's safety, that may be the single biggest label the rest of the world has attached to India. And it's the third brutal truth we need to confront head-on. India has been called the rape capital of the world by numerous media outlets. It's a harsh label, but the numbers don't lie. According to India's National Crime Records Bureau, a rape is reported roughly every 15 minutes on average. And that's just the reported cases. In India's tangled social web, victims often stay silent, pressured by family honor, social stigma, or police indifference. But what's even more chilling than the crime itself is the culture surrounding it. After the 2012 Delhi gang rape case that shook the world and sparked nationwide protests, many conservative Indian men, even educated ones in positions of power, still believed that good girls shouldn't be out at night. This deeply ingrained victim-blaming mentality is what truly sends a chill down your spine. This systemic oppression of women goes beyond personal safety. It bleeds right into the marriage market. Which leads us to the fourth fact: the legalized robbery known as the dowry system. India outlawed dowry over 60 years ago, but in reality, it's still the unspoken rule of marriage. In India, having a daughter is viewed by many families as a financial burden, because marrying her off means handing over enormous amounts of cash, gold, cars, or even property to the groom's family. And if the dowry isn't considered generous enough, cases of new brides being abused, beaten, or accidentally burned to death in their in-laws' homes regularly make the news. This kind of money-driven distortion of human decency turns marriage into a cold-blooded transaction, and women become the commodities with a price tag attached. You might be wondering, Why is it so hard to uproot these backward traditions? Well, there's an invisible hand behind all of it, and that's the fifth fact. The haunting persistence of the caste system. A lot of people think the caste system is a thing of the past. After all, Indian law guarantees equality for all citizens. But deep in the veins of Indian society, caste still dictates everything about your life. Your last name often gives away your place in the hierarchy. Whether you're a Brahmin or a Dalit, an untouchable determines what jobs you can hold, who you can marry, and even whether you're allowed to share a cup of water with someone from a higher caste. In some remote villages, lower caste people aren't allowed to wear shoes when walking through areas where higher caste residents live. Even their shadow must not fall on someone of a higher caste. This system, which assigns your rank at birth and never lets you escape, it locks hundreds of millions of people into a lifetime of humiliation. But India is a country of wild contradictions. Just when you're seething with rage over the caste system, you turn around and get blindsided by the intensity of their religious devotion. The sixth fact is about that sacred river, the Ganges. To devout Hindus, the waters of the Ganges can wash away the sins of an entire lifetime. So, what you witness on its banks is nothing short of surreal. Upstream, people are bathing, brushing their teeth, even drinking straight from the river, while just a few feet downstream, the ashes from cremations are scattered into the water. And sometimes, partially burned bodies float past on the surface. Water testing has shown that certain stretches of the Ganges have E. coli levels thousands of times above safe limits. This isn't water anymore. It's a bacterial soup. But to true believers, it's cleaner than anything on earth. What outsiders see as madness, they call devotion. That devotion extends to animals too. The seventh fact. In India, cows outrank people. On any given street or highway, you're likely to see a sacred cow casually strolling down the middle of traffic, and every car, truck, and bus will stop to let it pass. If a cow decides to lie down in the middle of the road for a nap, the entire block grinds to a halt and stays that way until Her Holiness decides to move. In some states, killing a cow is a serious crime, in some cases punishable more severely than killing a human being. If you're suspected of eating or selling beef, you could face mob justice from vigilante cow protection groups who may beat you or worse, kill you. Meanwhile, in a country that has more hungry people than anywhere else on earth, thousands of tons of milk and clarified butter are poured over religious idols as offerings. The power of religion to override basic logic is something to behold. On the subject of traffic chaos, we have to talk about the eighth fact. Indian trains a parallel universe of their own. You've definitely seen those photos of trains with passengers packed on the rooftops. While India's railways have cracked down on that practice, and electrification has made it much less common, hanging off the sides of train doors is still a daily reality. Mumbai's suburban rail system moves over 7 million passengers per day, with carriages packed at 10 to 12 people per square meter. That's not crowding, that's compression. During rush hour, you don't actually board the train the crowd shoves you in. And getting off, you get squeezed out. Every year, over 15,000 people die, falling from trains or crossing the tracks. It's a daily survival gauntlet. And for commuters, it's just Tuesday morning. Surviving in an environment like this has given Indians a unique kind of street-smart ingenuity. And that's the ninth fact. Jugaad. The word is hard to translate, but it roughly means solving problems in unconventional ways when resources are scarce. Think: repurposing a tractor engine into a makeshift truck, fashioning a shower head out of a plastic bottle, or converting a motorcycle into a working plow. On one hand, this reflects the remarkable cleverness and resilience of the Indian people. On the other, it reveals a culture with a loose relationship with rules and safety standards. In India, if it works whether it's safe or up to code, is a secondary concern. This mindset has seeped into construction, manufacturing, and even healthcare, leading to countless shoddy buildings and preventable accidents. The next fact might make your stomach turn a little. but it's a real part of India's story. The 10th fact: ascetics and the corpse-eating sect. Along the riverbanks of Varanasi, you may encounter a group of ash-covered figures, members of the Aghori sect. To conquer fear and shatter taboo, they engage in practices that defy comprehension, consuming rotting human flesh, drinking from human skulls, meditating alongside corpses. In their belief system, the divine exists in all things, including the most vile and terrifying. This is a fringe group to be sure, but they represent the extreme, boundary-pushing mysticism that is woven into the fabric of Indian culture, and they are arguably the single most jaw-dropping sight for Western visitors. But amid all these ancient and sometimes primitive customs, the 11th fact will completely flip your expectations. India is the world's pharmacy and Silicon Valley's backyard. This is where India's split personality is on full display. On one hand, hundreds of millions of people still struggle to access electricity and toilets. On the other, India's generic drug industry has saved the lives of countless cancer patients around the world who couldn't afford brand-name medications. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, has put a probe in orbit around Mars and landed a spacecraft near the moon's south pole, all on a budget smaller than the production cost of some Hollywood sci-fi films. The Indian Institutes of Technology have an acceptance rate lower than Harvard's, and their graduates run the show at Google, Microsoft, and other global tech giants. The coexistence of world-class elites and mass illiteracy, a country that can launch rockets and also maintain a temple housing 20,000 sacred rats, is something you won't find anywhere else on the Protus planet. Now, the 12th fact hits a little closer to home literally. You may have heard the saying, left hand for the toilet, right hand for the food. That's real. In traditional Indian culture, the left hand is considered unclean, reserved for handling bodily functions, so it must never touch food or be used to hand something to another person. To do so is a serious insult. As for street food hygiene, it exists in a sort of Schrodinger's state. You can never be sure whether it's clean or not. A vendor selling the famous pani puri might have just been scratching his feet before dunking his hand into the green chutney. Locals eat it without issue. Tourists often end up spending the rest of their trip in the bathroom. This isn't just about personal habits. It speaks to a deeper problem of water contamination that underlies most of the hygiene risks in Indian street food. The 13th fact is about India's obsession with gold. India is one of the world's largest consumers of gold. Whether rich or poor, the first thing most Indians do when they have extra money is buy gold. The total amount of gold held by Indian housewives alone is estimated to exceed 22,000 metric tons more than the combined official gold reserves of the United States, Germany, and Switzerland. For Indian women, gold isn't just jewelry. It's the one form of financial security they can truly control in a patriarchal society. During wedding season, you'll see brides so laden with gold ornaments that they need help walking, and that weight is both a symbol of wealth and a reminder of the traditional burdens women still carry. The 14th fact is about India's environmental catastrophe, especially its air. New Delhi's Air Quality Index regularly goes off the charts, sometimes literally too high, for instruments to measure. In winter, the combination of farmers burning crop stubble, industrial emissions, and vehicle exhaust turns the entire city into something resembling a gas chamber. Breathing Delhi's air for a single day is the equivalent of smoking 20 to 30 cigarettes. Doctors are seeing younger and younger lung cancer patients who have never smoked a day in their lives. This model of development, trading, environmental and human health for economic growth is exacting a devastating price. But for the laborers grinding it out at the bottom of the city's economy, whether they'll eat tomorrow is a far more pressing concern than whether they'll get lung cancer in 10 years. And finally, the 15th fact, and the one that leaves you with the most complicated feelings. Despite everything described above, all the chaos, the cruelty, the filth, India's people don't seem particularly unhappy. That sounds like a contradiction, but walk down any Indian street and you'll see people grinning ear to ear. Maybe it's because religion gives them a framework for accepting their fate, suffer in this life, enjoy the next. Maybe it's the deep emotional support of tightly knit extended families. There's a phrase for it. Chaltahai loosely translated as, "It's fine. Let it go." This easygoing optimism allows people to find joy in circumstances that would break most others. They play cricket on dusty patches of dirt. They belt out songs on overcrowded trains. This fierce, unshakable zest for life may be the real secret behind how this civilization has endured for thousands of years. So, after all 15 of these jaw-dropping facts, what does India look like to you now? Is it that dangerous land of rampant crime? Or a vibrant, emerging superpower? Is it the trash-strewn slum, or the deeply spiritual home of ancient wisdom? The truth is, India is all of it. It's a pot of boiling broth with cutting-edge technology and age-old superstition simmering together, with staggering wealth and bone-deep poverty churning in the same current. For those of us watching from the outside, it's easy to reduce India to a punchline or a cautionary tale. But truly understanding it is hard. Behind every one of these facts are 1.4 billion living, breathing human beings doing their best to carve out their place in the world, caught between the weight of history and the shockwaves of modernity. Maybe next time you come across a wild story about India, instead of just being shocked or amused, you'll take a moment to wonder, in an environment this extreme, how many unimaginable forms can human civilization take? Which of these 15 facts blew your mind the most? Or maybe you've been to India yourself and have a story to share. Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about the most complex, contradictory country on this planet. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.